start. It's an exciting session, and I'm so excited to be able to do introductions to both Jamie Miller and Dinah Pooh. We're here to talk about Journey Builder. Very, very exciting. So let me introduce Dinah and Jamie to you. Dinah is the Director of Marketing Ops and Tech at Berklee School of Music, where she has focused for the last 12 years in marketing and enrollment activities. She co-leads the Northeast Higher Ed Salesforce Community Group. She was the 2024 Salesforce Marketing Champion, very awesome context, and the 2024 Asana Work Innovation Awards finalist. Important because both Dinah and Jamie are the Berklee School of Music. Dinah plays flute and piano, so we always have a way back to quality music and performance. Jamie has been 6 years in marketing automation and plays the role of the marketing automation specialist on the team at Berklee. She's been at Berklee for 3 years. And her performance world, of course, because also critical, has been jazz and hip hop and dance. And so it's with great pleasure that I pass the baton to, I think, Dinah, you're going to start. Is that right?
Yes. Thanks, Meredith. Great. We're so excited to be here today. We do have a lot to talk about, so we're just going to jump right in. So today's journey, if you will, if you can't tell, love puns. We'll start off with our story. Then we'll level set a little bit and talk about what exactly is a journey. I'll go into how we plan our journeys. Then Jamie will go and jump into Marketing Cloud and show you how we build our journeys. And then, of course, because one journey is never enough for us marketers, I'll talk about how we scale up and out. And then if we have questions at the end, we'll answer those as best we can. Cool. All right, our story. So for those of you who don't know us, Berklee is the preeminent institute of contemporary music and the performing arts. We offer programs at the graduate, undergraduate, pre-college level at our campuses around the world and online. We're dedicated to nurturing the potential of the world's most inspired artists, and our mission is to prepare students for purposeful lives and careers as creative leaders. The Marketing Operations and Technology team, or the MOPS team as we'll refer it to, consists of 5 team members, myself, 3 specialists, including Jamie, and a technology and data manager. We support enrollment marketing efforts, so from inquiry all the way through matriculation, for 6 areas, including the college, the conservatory, campuses in New York City, Valencia, our pre-college folks, and full funnel marketing through graduation for our online a la carte and degree students. So quite a bit on our team that we support. Cool. So our story with marketing automation starts in 2013. We purchased our first platform at that time and launched with our Berklee online marketing plans. Over the course of the next few years, we gradually expanded our scope and included 5 other enrollment areas. So in 2021, when we decided to migrate to Marketing Cloud for a variety of reasons, we had 8 years of fairly sophisticated marketing plans, communication plans that we needed to rebuild quite quickly. And because of that, we knew that Journey Builder was going to be a huge part of our migration. We officially launched Marketing Cloud in November of 22. We focused on batch and blasts and IP warming, but very quickly switched focuses to our journeys. So we built and launched our first journey in March of 23. And then fast forward a year and a half later, we have over 80 journeys built, launched, spanning the entire enrollment lifecycle. So that's what we're going to talk about today. How did we get to this point? But before we get into the details, let's level set. Jamie, what exactly is a journey?
I'm so glad you asked. A journey is an orchestrated series of interactions and experiences designed to steer customers through their various stages of engagement using tailored messaging and strategic touch points to influence their decision-making and behaviors. a mouthful. So what does that really mean? A journey delivers the right message to the right audience at the right time, creating a more effective and personalized experience for our customers. Journey Builder is the campaign planning tool that enables you to design and automate these campaigns, guiding customers through their journey with your brand. Now, Journey Builder is a powerful multi-channel automation and engagement tool. For the purposes of today's presentation, we're going to be focusing on its capabilities with email. Now, Marketing Cloud does have multiple email sending solutions, including Journey Builder. So I just want to get a quick poll going. Let me highlight this for you guys. If you are currently in Marketing Cloud, I'm curious to know if you are sending emails out of Email Studio, Automation Studio, Journey Builder, or multiple of these, or let us know if you're not using Marketing Cloud at this time. So go ahead and just take a second to fill out this poll. I don't know, is it working? Are you guys able to fill it out? Yes, no, maybe so. Can't tell.
Jamie, it looks like we're seeing a bunch of results coming in, and overwhelming majority are using more than one.
Oh, okay, cool. So weird. Can't see any of those responses. Love that for me. Okay, cool. So great. Love that you guys are using multiple. That is really common in Marketing Cloud. There really is a time and place for each one of these sending solutions. So let's talk about kind of the best use case for each one. Email Studio, we typically are using this mainly for batch and blast, kind of your basic one-off email campaigns pre-scheduled that don't really involve a lot of conditional paths or complex triggers. Now you have access to segmentation and personalization in Email Studio. You could also play with A/B testing and reporting and analytics as well. Automation Studio are going to be your more recurring emails that don't really require a lot of manual intervention after you set it up. But you do have access to more complex paths and automations using multi-step orchestration. You have access to SQL query activities and filter activities and file imports and exports. And lastly, most importantly for today, you can also send emails out of Journey Builder. And these are going to be your longer engagement one-to-one marketing emails. So this is really where your customer journey mapping can come in. And you have these trigger-based campaigns that have multi-channel orchestration. You can use SMS, you can use email, and then you also have access to powerful dynamic content and personalization here too. So as you can see, there's some overlapping features between each of these, and they really were designed in Marketing Cloud to work seamlessly together. And we actually have an example that we're going to talk through today of a campaign that we run out of Marketing Cloud that uses all three of those sending solutions. So this is a quick example of our Berklee Valencia post-acceptance campaign. So Berklee Valencia is one of our campuses in Spain. And when a student is ready to receive their decision notice, we send that decision email out of Email Studio. That's a batch and blast send. Once they get accepted, we run them through Automation Studio using SQL activity to filter out who we want to push into this post-acceptance journey, and then we enter them into our journey. So this is our example of what's currently running in our Marketing Cloud instance. And I want to talk a little bit more about kind of the basic requirements for where we need to have skill sets in order to build this. And then we'll get into more what this actually looks like in Journey Builder. So covering the basic requirements for Journey Builder, these are things we're not going to be getting too deep into in this presentation, but I just want to touch base on them here so you guys kind of are at the same understanding. So you really want to have familiarity with Salesforce Marketing Cloud's environment, terminology, and how to navigate its various features. You'll want to have understanding of how to create content in Content Builder that you'll be pulling into your journeys. And then, of course, comprehensive knowledge of your organization's data models in Marketing Cloud. The examples we're going to be showing you today are based on our data models, and that's going to look different for everybody. So these, again, we're not going to be focusing on the details of these areas. We're going to be focusing on the key elements of journey, building your journey inside and outside of Marketing Cloud.
Thanks, Jamie. Alrighty, so my team will attest to this, but I'm a big believer that planning and process are going to be big indicators of success. So, my team in particular, we take a lot of inspiration from our colleagues in product management. And we use concepts such as agile project management, scalable and cyclical processes, and iterative improvements. So for example, this is our campaign workflow. It's a cyclical framework that we use to manage all of our campaigns. We'll start off with strategy, which informs the build. We rigorously test, deploy, analyze the performance, and then we're right back into strategy again. So the name of this session is Building Your First Journey. So let's start at the very beginning. So if your first journey has inspiration from past campaigns, certainly you'll want to look at the data from your previous campaigns and use that to inform your decision. But no matter if your ideas are adapted or original, you'll want to start by filling out what we call a campaign brief. So a campaign brief is essentially a worksheet that, Jamie, next slide. A worksheet that contains all of the questions that you need to answer to inform the experience that you're creating for your students. You'll start off with high-level information about your campaigns, including your campaign purpose and your goals. Why are you running this campaign? And in particular, I like to talk about your purpose in the terms of a student, like having that student-centered mindset. What are we doing for the student by running this campaign? Then we'll also want to talk about success. How are we defining success for this campaign, and what are your KPIs? What are other dimensions or analytics that you want to be able to analyze after your campaign is over, or at certain points of your campaign once it's live? Those dimensions will actually inform how you're going to build, because the last thing you want to do is build it in a way that's not capturing those data points. Certainly, if there's references to previous campaigns or concurrent campaigns, that will provide context for that greater example, right? Your students aren't just doing one campaign, experiencing one campaign at a time. I'm sure you have multiple things going on at the same time. Stakeholders and RACI, who are you working with and for what purpose? And then I like to think of the brief as your playbook. So as you're going through that building process, you're going to be creating more resources and your project plans and links in Marketing Cloud. All of those, put it all into the brief so that you have all of that pertinent information in one place. Next, your audience. Who are you targeting? Not only who you do want to target, but also important, who do you not want to target? Going along with your KPIs, what actions or how are you going to define that goal? And then when they meet that goal, are you going to kick them out of that journey, or are you going to keep them in there? And then are there any other actions that someone might take that would cause them to exit that journey, but isn't a goal? So a really good example of that could be your in-progress application journeys. Your entry criteria might be people who start an application. Goal criteria could be people who submit their application. And then exit criteria could be people who withdraw. Certainly, you can't have a campaign without your assets. So you'll want to write out all of your content, your copy, your imagery, what layouts you're going to use. And then your send classifications, as well as your sender profile. So who and how are we going to be sending this email? Are you going to use dynamic content or any personalization? That would be all part of your content strategy. And then, are you running any tests? In my opinion, if you have the resources to run a test, you should always be running a test. We take a scientific method to this, so we always write out what our hypothesis is and how we're running the test on what portion of the audience, as well as how we are going to be measuring who is the winner. Certainly, last but not least, we have our timing and our cadences. What's the launch date? When are we trying to get this turned on? When you turn it on, are your audiences for that first run slightly different from your basic entry criteria that you just defined? For instance, in that in-progress application journey, are you going to go back and batch in folks who had started their application a week before or a month before, or that cycle for the entire cycle? Your end dates. Sometimes your journeys are going to be evergreen and always on. We love those. But sometimes your journeys will have end dates. And what could be slightly challenging is to define what an end date is. And there's actually two different types of end dates. You have your last entry. So when's the last time you want to add people into the journey? And what is your ejection date? If you have one, if you want to kick people out, when do we want to kick them out? They could be same date, they could be different dates. A good example of that could be our onboarding journeys right before orientation. We actually will eject people at orientation because they'll be on campus and they'll be doing, getting all sorts of communications at that point. So we just want to pop them out at that point. Timing between activities. How long are you waiting between emails? And then add all of that up to calculate your total time in journey. Now that one's really important, especially in the context of an end date. If your total time in journey is 3 months, but your last entry is only a month before your ejection date, you need to understand that and make a decision. All right, for those students, do they only get a month worth of emails? Are we speeding them up? Or are we removing some emails from their path? So as you can see, there's a lot of details that need to be figured out. And this is all before a build. And it's quite detailed and can get a little confusing. But one of the things that we do on our team that has been extremely helpful is we actually turn our, what could be many, many pages of a brief into a visual diagram.
Yes, so this has been one of my favorite parts of the journey building process. And as you can see from the slide alone, going from Dinah's slide, which is very text heavy of all that information, now this slide is a lot more clean in a diagram form. And this is exactly why it's helpful for us to do this before we get into execution as well. So firstly, creating these diagrams based on the information in the campaign brief can help us figure out if there's any information missing. This is kind of going to be very similar to what building in Journey Builder is like. And so we can kind of figure out ahead of time if there's any details that are missing, if there's any logic that doesn't make sense yet. And then this is also really helpful to serve as a visual aid in our conversations with stakeholders. We use these in our meetings to all be aligned on what this campaign looks like. And for people who are not in Marketing Cloud, who won't actually see what these campaigns look like in Journey Builder, this is really great documentation of that as well for our records.
Thanks, Jamie. So as you can see, that diagram is just so great for conversations, strategic conversations. And we have those conversations in what we call a kickoff meeting. So it's a meeting with all of our stakeholders, and we're just really trying to understand and get on that same page and finalize that solution. During that time, we're also discussing timelines and the lift. Is there something that they want that just requires a lot of work and maybe we don't have time for that? And what are the priorities and whatnot? Anything that doesn't make it into the existing version, it's one of the things why I love iterative and cyclical processes is you can throw it onto that backlog, and the next time you're revisiting the journey, you can bring it back. Once you finalize the scope, you'll want to then build the plan, set due dates, assign resources in your project management tool. So as much as I say we love to embrace agility, I will say at this point, that's the time you really want to make sure you're locking down the scope of the project and those decisions. And I say this for two reasons. One, Journey Builder's interface can kind of be a little difficult. So something that you might think is a small tweak will actually require you to like delete an entire branch and rebuild it. So you can see how like having those changes mid-build can get frustrating and extend timelines. The second reason is once the journey is active, you're actually limited with the types of changes you can make before you're required to create a new version. And once somebody is in that journey, they're kind of locked into that version. They actually won't experience all of the changes you make unless you pull them out of that original version and restart them in the new version, which, as we all know, might not be the greatest student experience. So, but the nice thing is, if you notice, that diagram looks very similar to what we built in Journey Builder. And we've found strong correlations between changes that would require an update to that diagram would usually require a new version. Things that don't, you might be able to sneak it in as an iterative change without having to create that new version. So I know we talked about a lot. It takes a lot to plan. So in really quickly, you've done your strategy, you've filled out that brief, you have your kickoff, you've finalized the scope, you've done the project plan. Now you're ready to actually go into Marketing Cloud and start building.
All right. So let's build our journey. These are the steps that we follow for execution in Journey Builder. We're going to start by setting up our entry source, schedule, and settings. We're going to construct our campaign flow, define our goal and exit criteria, validate, test, and quality assurance, and then we're going to launch our journey and monitor the warranty. So let's dive into each one of these and get a little bit more granular with what this looks like. So I'm going to be doing like a little live demo here. Bear with me if the video gets weird. But I'm actually going to show you what this looks like in Journey Builder. So we're starting with our entry source, schedule, and settings. And this is really defining the how and the when customers enter your journey. Now, as a reminder, we got the information that we need for this data in our campaign brief, but now we actually need to build it out. So you can see on the left-hand side, we have a few different options for entry sources. For this campaign that we're going to be building, our Berklee Valencia post-acceptance campaign, we're going to be using a data extension. And that's typically what we use for our journeys at Berklee. And now that data extension has been pre-made before we're in Journey Builder with all of the fields that we'll need to work with. And then we're populating that data extension via SQL query that's running out of Automation Studio. So again, we're not going to be showing you that, but we will show you how to configure that within Journey Builder. So we're going to drag in our data extension and find that pre-existing DE that we've created and just pull that in and configure that. Now, once we've pulled that in, you do have the option to further filter your contacts. For us, we've defined the exact audience that we want to enter this journey in our SQL query, but there are instances where you might have a more general audience that you're using as your entry and you need to further filter before they get into the journey. And this is an option of where you can do that. For us, we don't need to, so we're going to just press done. Next, we're going to set up our schedule. Now, you have three options for your schedule types. You can schedule run once, which, as it sounds, just runs the journey one time. You could set a customized recurring schedule, or you can set it as automation. Now, automation can either be run once or recurring, but all this means is that that schedule is defined in Automation Studio rather than in Journey Builder. And like I said, for us, we have an automation running for this entry, so we're going to use that predefined schedule in automation. And the great thing about Journey Builder is it will recognize what automation is associated with the data extension that you're pulling. So all we needed to do was click. Last but not least, you're able to select how Journey Builder evaluates your contacts upon entry. So you can either have everyone evaluated every single time the journey runs, which takes a lot of processing power, or you can have it only evaluate new records, which is typically what we do because it's more efficient. If you're evaluating new records only, you also want to click how it is evaluated on first run. So it could be all records in the file or only new records after journey activation. For us, we don't actually populate our data extension until we're ready to launch our journey. So we could do only new records after journey activation or all records in file because there are no records right now. And this just depends on your campaign and your strategy. There really is a use case for all of that. Again, that'll just be determined in your campaign brief and conversations with your stakeholders. Lastly, we're going to go into our journey settings and determine how we want contacts to be able to re-enter the journey. So you can either have someone never re-enter after they run through or after they're exited. They could re-enter at any time, even if they're already in the journey, or they can re-enter only after exiting. And same thing, this really just depends on the strategy and the type of campaign. We run campaigns that use all of the above. So, I mean, it really just depends. And then you're just going to press save and you are done configuring your source schedule and settings. And we are ready to actually build our campaign flow. So the campaign flow is really the fun part. That's where you can get really creative and build out your whole experience that you want to send members down through. And there's so many options. There's so many activities in Journey Builder that you can play with. For this presentation, I want to focus on the path splitting options. So to create different paths for different members based on various criteria, I want to talk about some of those options that we have. So you can split based on engagement. So if someone clicks or opens an email, you can send them down one path. And if they haven't, you can send them down another. You could use Path Optimizer tool, which is going to send your members down using real-time data to whichever path is more optimal for their performance. You could use Random Split, which serves as Journey Builder's like A/B test situation. And then you can also use Decision Split, which is based on specific criteria that we'll split the paths for. So for our example, our Berklee Valencia post-acceptance journey, we need to use the decision split because the first email that we want our members to receive is a program-specific digital acceptance packet. And we have a different email with a different packet for each program. So we have 4 programs, and we're going to use the decision split activity to create 4 different paths where we can then drag in 4 different emails. So I just dragged in the decision split. And now you'll see we have 2 paths already given to us. We have path 1 and a remainder. The remainder will always be there. That's not something you can delete. You'll always only need to configure 1 less path than is required for your given criteria because of this remainder. So we'll create 3 different paths and then we'll have our remainder sending everybody else down. So to configure our first path, you can see we will have 2 different options here for what data we can use. We can use contact data, which is going to be your dynamic data that reflects exactly what that record looks like at any given point. Or you can use journey data, which is more of your static data. And this is actually a screenshot, if you will, of what that record looked like upon entry of the journey. So whatever point you're at in the journey, this data will always be the same as what it looked like when they entered. Now, this is the first activity in our journey. And so these data points will actually look the same, right? So for ease of use, we're going to use journey data. And we'll be able to see all of the fields that exist in our data extension, including the fields that we need to use, which is program. So you'll see I'm going to drag program in and then populate that with the data value that we require for this. And then that's all I needed to do to set up my first path. I'll label it, and then I can actually clone this and then make updates to the other following paths so that we have everything that we need to make these decision splits. And then we are good to go. So now you can actually see this reflected in our journey. And like I said, we want a different email for all of these programs. So we're going to drag in the email activity field, and we can then configure whichever email is needed for each of these. Now, after they receive these emails, we actually want them to come back up into the same path, because the rest of the journey will look the same for everybody. So I'm using the join tool to reconnect all of these paths together so that they can all get back onto the same track. And because of this, because we're not actually messing with the timing and cadence between these different paths, I can actually delete these wait steps so that they can all be aligned in one wait step. Again, this helps save processing power. Everything we do in Journey Builder does take a lot of power. So if you can save space by deleting unnecessary activities, always do that. And then you'll always want to save everything you do at every point, because Journey Builder does not auto save. So always press that save button. So that was one example of something you can be doing in your campaign flow. There's so many other ways that you can build out your flow. Two of the points that I had just touched on that I want to go a little bit further into is your wait steps and your email activities. So the wait step that we just used was a wait by duration, which is very common, probably going to be your most frequently used wait steps. But you do have options to play with other types of waits. You can use wait until a date, a specific date and time, or a specific event. And you can also use Einstein STO, which actually is AI that is collecting data on all of your records in your system and uses previous history to determine when they are most likely to interact with your emails. So you can set up that as your wait step so you can try and get more optimal results. And then your email activities. I know a lot of you are currently sending emails in various parts of Marketing Cloud, and so this should look familiar to you. Setting up your email activities is very similar to configuring emails anywhere else in Marketing Cloud. You just pull in that email from Content Builder and then set up your send classification, your sender profile, and everything else that was determined again in your campaign brief. So just some extra info on other ways that you can fill out the campaign flow in Journey Builder. Once you've finished your flow, whatever your campaign is meant to look like, you'll need to define your goal and your exit criteria. And again, I say define, but that was already defined in the campaign brief stage. Your stakeholders have already informed what this should look like, and you're just configuring it now. So your goal summary is what we are looking at as the success of your journey. For us in this specific example, we are defining success as deposits. So we say we want 50% of the population to deposit while in the journey. That's something to note is this is only looking at metrics while members are in the journey. This does not count if they deposit after they've been removed from the journey. We do have the option to exit upon goal. So say we wanted to send deposited students into a new journey that is more targeted to, content and messaging for post-deposit. In this case, the content that we have in our post-acceptance journey is content we want everybody to receive regardless of deposit. So we don't exit upon goal, but that is a really helpful option, and we use that in a lot of other campaigns. Exit criteria, on the other hand, as Dinah mentioned, is just when you want them out of your journey, they no longer qualify for any given reason, and we just want to push them out. So in this case, if their application has been withdrawn, we just want them removed. So we configure these, and then we are pretty much done with our build. So after the build is done, you've saved everything, you want to validate, test, and QA. So validating and testing is offering in Journey Builder itself that will run through. So Journey Builder will run through a validation check for you. It will flag anything that looks off or will not let you run due to certain reasons. And it will also let you know what might not be best practice. Testing, you can actually pick records that exist in your entry source, or you can create test records and have them run through your actual journey as if they were actively in it. And you can see what what paths they're going down, if they're being exited for certain reasons. So that's really, really helpful to just confirm that everything is functioning as you intend it to. And then QA is a process that we on our MOPS team have set up to make sure that we have just covered all of our grounds. So we actually have someone else on our team look over this checklist, these bullet points, and just make sure that everything looks good with a second set of eyes. It's just, there's so many details. If you guys haven't been able to realize that by now, there's so many details. There's so much to build. And we are QAing all of that. And then you're ready to launch. So you can turn on your automation, press activate on your journey, notify your team, and celebrate. And then lastly, we want to monitor the warranty. So that's usually a period of about a week or so, depending on the campaign, after it's running, to just make sure, once again, now that real data is going through, that everything looks good. And then you're done. So that was your journey build.
Phew. Well, congratulations. Your first journey is out in the world. Now, like I said before, we're marketers. We're never satisfied with that build. We're always going to be looking at how we can improve. And so that's where we talk about scaling up, or the next time we're going to look at the journey and optimize. So depending on your journey, you might decide to revisit at different cadences, depending on what your cycle is or where your priorities are. But whatever that cadence is, as you're leading up to that time, you're going to be revisiting it. Start scoping out what goes into your next version. And you're not going in blind, right? You have certainly you want to analyze your existing journey's performance. What went well, what didn't go well. Did you run any tests? What were the winners? Are there new tests that you want to run? And then remember that backlog I mentioned before? Go ahead and review that backlog to see if there were any features that just didn't make it into your original, into the existing version. And there's always new ideas, and you're always inspired and by new functionality and whatnot in the world. My recommendation, when you have that epiphany, throw it into your backlog so you only have to look at it in one place. Whatever that scope is, once you've kind of gotten an idea of where you're going, then, like I said, cyclical process, you start that campaign workflow all over again and start creating your next brief. Now, if you're anything like us, one journey is not going to be enough either. Maybe you'll have 80 journeys like us. So how do you scale out and build more journeys? Take that workflow that you're using and build it into your project management tool. We happen to use Asana, and we created templates that allow us to easily replicate our tasks, due dates, resourcing needs. After you get through one or two builds, you start kind of getting, a little bit of a cadence, and you understand how that workflow goes for your team. So what I would recommend is figure out what that cadence is, and then create release cycles aligned with your cadence. So for my team, I have 3 builders, and with all of the different QAs plus our day-to-day ops, these are projects. Our sweet spot tends to be 3 to 4 weeks for a turnaround from finalizing that brief through to launch. And then of course, add a couple of weeks for warranty monitoring. And then start adding your campaigns into the release cycles that make sense against your due dates. I will say, try to limit the number of campaigns you have per release cycle for each builder. And that's because, as you can tell, the mental load on these journeys can be pretty big. There's so many details to keep track of. So you don't want to have too much going on, and really allow your builders some focus time to build. And in addition, like I said, we have our day-to-day work too. So this balance has allowed us to keep moving on those strategic projects, but also keep the lights on. So yeah, that is how we got to 80 journeys. And I think if you are able to take some of these takeaways and apply it to your team, you'll be able to be journey building powerhouses like us in no time. Thank you.
Thank you both, Jamie and Dinah. What a wonderful, rich presentation. We don't have time for questions given the duration of the presentation time, but I believe on the next slide, both of them have shared their emails. And so please do reach out directly. I think they're both very interested in being able to respond with what has been an absolutely fabulous presentation. Thank you both so much. Join me in thanking our presenters. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day, but wonderful.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Meredith, if we start answering in the Q&A section, people can come back in and look at those answers, correct? Or
I don't know the answer to that actually, but I was trying to figure out if I could extract the Q&A for later to respond to. But why don't you try that just in case? But I don't know that will flow through on the record. You know, I don't know how people are going to come back into them. Yeah, sorry about that. Jamie, I was trying to signal you.
I saw the 5 minutes. I was like, oh crap.
What I didn't want to do is disrupt because it was so content rich and what a wonderful presentation. I think, people will follow up if they have questions for you.
Yeah.
But that was really, really, really good. I know I saw 2 of the folks on my team listening in as well. So I'm excited for them to pick up your goodness as well. So I just didn't know. I assumed everyone would be kicked out at the end of 11:30. So should have asked that earlier.
Yeah, I guess I'm not sure. I'm not sure if people are still able to be in here.
Well, there are 36 people still in here, so
like if we wanted to start answering questions, if people were sticking around, we could potentially.
I see Justin is still in, since apparently we're not kicked out. He had something, had a number of votes in it. I think probably we should keep the conference on track for the conference. Yeah. All right. Thanks so much, Dane. Both of you. It was really fun working with you and really awesome.
Thanks, Meredith.
Thank you.
All right. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.